So Donald Trump thought Canada would fold like a cheap lawn chair the moment he threatened 50% tariffs. He expected Ottawa to panic, the premiers to split, and Canadians to quietly crawl back to American products.
Instead, 9 provinces moved to open their borders to Canadian beer, wine, and spirits. Canada pulled out of the joint celebration for the Gordie Howe International Bridge, and Mark Carney said Canada would keep defending its workers, businesses, families, and national sovereignty. The message here is that Canadians, we're furious.
Yeah, listen. The bridge is still going to open, trade will still move. Canada just decided that there's no reason to stand beside the people threatening our economy and pretend that this was a happy photo op.
Even CNN is now covering how badly Trump has damaged America's standing in Canada. He wanted to remind Canadians how dependent we are on the United States, but instead he reminded us how much money we have been sending there.
And that's the bigger message today. Canadians, we're really angry, but that anger has turned into action. And Trump is beginning to see the consequences.
Now, if you missed yesterday's video, here's a short version. Trump announced 50% tariffs on selected Canadian goods, including alcohol, dairy, wood products, clothing, furniture, and cement, with the proposed measures set to begin on August 19th.
Now, the tariff doesn't cover every Canadian export, but they target nearly $20 billion in goods and reach some products that would otherwise receive tariff-free treatment under CUSMA. For the companies caught on that list, a tariff is still a serious problem, even if Trump presents it as a limited measure.
So that's the background. Basically, Trump placed a very large threat on the table, and Canada now has roughly a month to negotiate, prepare, and decide how much pressure it's willing to return. All because Trump was jealous that Mark Carney was respected at the World Cup.
Yeah, well, you know what? Canada didn't waste any time responding, that's for sure. One of Trump's biggest complaints is the Canadian boycott of U.S. alcohol. The White House's own proclamation says Canadian imports of U.S. alcohol fell roughly 81%, from about $718 million to $137 million.
And here Trump said that we don't need anything from Canada. But clearly, that boycott got his attention. He keeps saying Canada has no leverage while issuing presidential proclamations because Canadians stop buying American products. This man just talks in contradictions, and everyone can see it.
His apparent goal here was to pressure the provinces into putting U.S. products back on their shelves. Well, that backfired spectacularly. Yesterday, 9 premiers agreed to remove major barriers that prevented Canadian producers from selling directly to consumers across provincial borders.
Finally, that means a winery in British Columbia, a brewery in Ontario, or a distillery in Nova Scotia can begin reaching customers in other provinces more easily. British Columbia still needs time to complete its regulations, while Quebec and the Yukon, they're working towards the joint agreement too, so don't count them out.
Now, it sounds like just a little technical change, but it's been sitting in front of Canada for decades. Canadian producers have been able to sell all around the world, yet moving a bottle from one province to another has often felt like applying for permission to cross an international border. It's ridiculous.
Yes. So Trump wanted easier access for American brands, but his threat helped create an easier access for Canadian businesses.
And David Eby, he didn't beat around the bush either. He was really direct. He said there was not a chance in hell that U.S. alcohol would return to British Columbia shelves right now. And Carney backed the broader principle here as well, saying that any change would come only as part of a comprehensive agreement.
So Canada is not handing Trump a free concession because he raised his voice. The provincial boycott remains a bargaining chip, and giving it away early would reward the threat before Canada gets an agreement.
Then there's the Gordie Howe International Bridge. We all know Canada financed that project and plans to recover the costs through toll revenue, creating a major new crossing for workers, manufacturers, and communities on both sides of the borders.
A joint celebration had been planned for July 24th, but after the tariff threat, Canada basically said, "F you," and decided that a shared ceremony with American officials would send the wrong message. So Canada will hold its own event without the USA.
And rightfully so. You're not going to stand side by side for a photo op with a neighbor who just threatened to take down your economy with more tariffs and basically is looking to wrestle Canada into submission on trade. This was the right move.
The bridge itself, it remains scheduled to open to traffic on July 27th. Trade will continue across it because geography and common sense still exist in other countries.
Canada is keeping the bridge, the jobs, and the economic connection. The part being removed is the smiling ceremony that suggests everything is perfectly friendly while Washington has threatened our exports. That is where the symbolism becomes really powerful. Canada is saying that cooperation can continue where cooperation benefits both sides, but respect cannot be assumed simply because two flags appear beside one another.
Now, Trump said Canada has been very tough on the United States, and then he claimed they need us to survive. So which one is it, Donnie?
Sure, the U.S. is the larger economy, and it can inflict real damage. We're not saying otherwise here. But it also relies on Canadian energy, electricity, potash, aluminum, critical minerals, food, and industrial components. Both sides have something the other side needs. Trump's strategy depends on Canadians believing only one country has leverage.
So the message is practical. Open the bridge, move the goods, keep the workers working, but the handshake, no way, man. That's not going to happen.
And what's beautiful here is the consumer response is already taking shape. Canadians are changing where they travel, what they buy, and which companies are receiving their money.
Statistics Canada says Canadian trips to the United States in June remained almost 29% below June 2024 levels, even with a small improvement from last year's unusually weak numbers. Now, one vacation does not decide a trade relationship, but it sends a message. And if you're traveling to the U.S. right now for a vacation, you need to give your head a shake, people. Showing a united front is more important than ever right now, and that means shopping and traveling within Canada or heading to allies that actually care about us, like Mexico, Europe, or down in South America.
Yeah, think about this. A Canadian family choosing a Canadian hotel supports Canadian employees, restaurants, attractions, and suppliers. A Canadian business finding another customer inside Canada, it keeps more value circulating here at home. And that's more important than ever right now.
I don't understand anyone going to Disney World right now. Now listen, this dispute is with Trump and the administration, but Canadians are allowed to direct more of their spending towards strengthening their own country. And that is the only thing that Trump and his cronies will understand. Keep the money out of the United States.
Now we're seeing this collapse in trust take a global effect. CNN's Harry Enton highlighted polling showing that only 20% of Canadians have confidence in Trump, while 79% have no confidence in him. In my opinion, 20% is still too high.
I agree. Now, Pew also found that only 35% of Canadians now see the United States as a reliable partner. That's down from 83% in 2022.
And Trump, he treats fear as leverage, but repeated coercion changes behavior, right? Companies, they diversify customers. Governments build new partnerships. And consumers, they develop new habits.
Every threat strengthens the case for internal trade. Canadian processing, East-West infrastructure, and wider export markets. It also strengthens the case for every Canadian to boycott American goods and service and not to travel to the USA. Ordinary Canadians can weigh in with their wallets, and we have seen how that has had a huge effect.
Opening provincial borders, it may sound modest next to a 50% tariff, but Canada has postponed this kind of structural change for decades. A larger home market gives Canadian companies more room to grow.
The bridge decision, that carries the same message but in a different way. Canada will continue doing practical business with the United States because we have to. But respect will no longer be assumed simply because the two flags appear at the same ceremony.
Prime Minister Carney now has 30 days to negotiate, prepare targeted retaliation, and protect the companies exposed to this tariff list. He also has to keep the premiers working together while recognizing that their regional interests are not identical.
Trump is doing this to cause chaos, and most likely he'll pull another taco. But we do have to be prepared, and we need to combine discipline with resolve. Carney has already said he's going to protect the workers facing immediate pressure and create new customers at home and expand trade elsewhere and make every future threat less powerful than the one before it.
Remember here, caution cannot become capitulation. Every retreat raises the price of the next threat. And I think Canada's on the right path here.
Yeah, Trump expected the 50% number to make Canada collapse. We are getting so used to this that we don't care. And instead, provinces opened new doors to one another. Ottawa removed the joint photo opportunity, and the Prime Minister, he kept and continues to keep Canada's options open.
Canadians are pissed off because this stopped feeling like a normal trade disagreement a long time ago. Friends negotiate, allies disagree. Bullies keep demanding proof that you're willing to be pushed around.
So here's our question for you. By August 19th, will Trump win the concession he wants, or will Canada hold its position and retaliate?
Let us know in the comments, because this has really stirred a major reaction with Canadians and people around the world. And we want to hear what you have to say about it.
And while you're in the comments, check out the pinned comment at the top because it has links to all of the good stuff like our Substack, our merch store, our Facebook group, and the A-Team.
And don't forget to give this a like, a hype, and a share so other people can weigh in on this as well.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you.
Ciao for now.